Hey there, in today's episode of Starting a Business from Scratch and Posting It All on YouTube, I'm going to be talking about intellectual property protection. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about patent searching because I came up with a new idea for a physical product, and then non-disclosure agreements or NDAs. And these were two of the very first steps that I took before committing any significant amount of money or time to pursuing this endeavor. I'm going to be discussing the process of actually applying for a patent and looking at copyrights and trademarks later on down the road when I get to it. Welcome back, and if you're new to the channel, this here is a series where I provide a behind-the-scenes look at starting a business from scratch. My new business is going to be based on a physical product, a new type of pet carrier for cats and small dogs. And so this episode is where I'm going to discuss the very initial steps that I took to protect my intellectual property before taking my idea very far. Full disclosure, my dad is a very recently retired intellectual property lawyer, and he spent his entire career acquiring and defending patents, copyrights, and trademarks. And I recognize that having someone like that in my corner, supporting me and providing me with advice and feedback throughout this whole process is really just an invaluable asset that not a lot of people have access to. That said, I'm going to share some of the things that I've been learning going through this process with him, and potentially it will be useful for others as well. Since I have an idea for a physical product, a new type of pet carrier, I had to first conduct a search of the patent databases here in Canada and in the US to see if there was already an existing patent for what I'm envisioning. Because obviously, if I didn't do that before pursuing this idea very far, I would be taking a huge risk that I would find out later on down the road that someone already has a patent for this, and then I can't pursue it any further. So with the help of my dad, we conducted a search of the patent databases here in Canada and also in the US. Now, while you don't need a lawyer to do this for you, because both of the databases are provided online for free, it's really not a user-friendly experience. And when I was experimenting on my own, I found that I really needed to know what I was looking for or to have a really good idea of which search criteria to use, because otherwise you could return thousands of results that you'll have to sift through. And so really, if you can get some sort of expert advice during this stage, that's amazing. If not, it's definitely possible to do it on your own. So long story short, we discovered many patents for different types of pet carriers for cats, dogs, and all kinds of other animals. And some of them were actually hilarious, like this one that essentially functions like a straitjacket for your cat. But I'm going down a tangent here. Basically, what the results of our search determined was that there aren't any existing patents that my idea would infringe upon. And so my idea is at least potentially patentable, and it's worth pursuing a little bit further to see how far I can take it. Knowing now that I do have an idea that is at least potentially patentable though, I still want to protect my intellectual property until I actually file for a patent. And how do you do that? By using non-disclosure agreements or NDAs. I've learned that having a good NDA is an essential form of intellectual property protection, especially once you start sharing your idea with the outside world, which you're eventually going to have to do if you want to proceed any further, because you're going to have to talk to product designers and industrial designers and prototypers. You're going to have to find manufacturers. And as you go further on down the process of starting this business, there's going to be more and more people that become aware of your idea and that could potentially steal it from you in the worst case scenario. And lawyers are really good at planning for the worst case scenario. In the ideal world, of course, speaking to a product designer would never lead to an infringement on your intellectual property, because you'd hope that they're reputable enough that they wouldn't do something like that. And if they did steal your idea, it would probably cause such great reputational damage to them that it would really damage their business in the long run. And so it's not something that I'm overly worried about as I reach out to product designers and prototypers, but still, like I said, you plan for the worst case scenario, hope for the best. On the off chance that I do share my idea with somebody unsavory, I'm using a generic non-disclosure agreement for each product designer or prototyper that I speak with. And those non-disclosure agreements stipulate that all of the intellectual property behind this idea is mine. Those people aren't authorized to share it with anybody else unless I say that they're allowed to do it, and they can't take that idea and produce it themselves or in any other way use my intellectual property without my express written or verbal consent. Sometimes it feels a little bit weird to be making all of these people sign non-disclosure agreements, especially since it feels a little bit like I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I don't even know yet if my idea is a good one. And so to have people sign NDAs and protect the intellectual property of what could potentially be just a terrible idea, it feels a bit strange. But once you get used to it, I'm realizing that it's just an essential best business practice, and it's something that needs to be done, especially during the early stages of a new idea or concept business. So yeah, those were the first two steps that I took in starting this business venture. And now that I've conducted a patent search and I know that my idea doesn't at least obviously infringe on any existing patents, and I'm using non-disclosure agreements to protect my intellectual property until I can file for a patent, that's really allowed me to move to the next stage, which is reaching out to product designers and prototypers to see if I can get the first concept, model, or prototype built. And that's what my next episode is going to be about. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in following along and seeing all of the next steps of this business journey, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.